Just going to wait for that little button to say, let's get started.
Hey, everybody. Hey,
Hi there.
Hey, Carol. I haven't seen you in forever. It was so good to see your face this morning.
It's good to have everybody in. I want to welcome everybody in and aboard. Today, we're going to talk about Ally accessibility. Now, we have parentheses in Blackboard because we do know there are some folks who don't necessarily always use Blackboard as their LMS. We wanted to talk about the tips, tricks, and techniques to add accessibility in documents to your documents and videos for your courses. All right, so getting kind of a nice little welcome for everybody. Here we are. I'll go first. I'm Brian Berger. I'm our Distance Education Faculty Fellow. When I'm not doing distance education, I am busy doing chemistry stuff and working as a faculty lead in our science department. I'm located in the science building, S255. There's my email and my office number.
Hi, everybody. My name is Haley Collins. I am the Center for Success Faculty Fellow, and I'm an English instructor here at ACC. And apologize in advance for the noise going off in the background. I'm trying to help other people navigate with some technology issues. But I'm located in the G building in G164. And I'm always here. So if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out.
All right. Thank you, Haley. And we're excited about this topic today because it's a big one to talk about. And so to get things kind of started, I always like to start off with this comic whenever I talk about accessibility for online or any kind of, virtual instruction. And so the idea is yes, can we please shovel the ramp? Well, all the other kids are waiting to use the stairs. When I get through shoveling them, then I'll clear the ramp for you. But again, if you shovel the ramp, we can all get in. So folks, when you think about clearing a path for people with special needs, you're clearing a path for everybody. Adding accessibility to documents, videos, and other different materials is all about helping other people out. So helping, a select group will actually help everybody. All right, so getting things started. Here's kind of the game plan we're going to go with. This is kind of our flow today, talking about accessibility, the importance of accessibility, some techniques for improving accessibility, and then some tools and resources. All right, Haley, take it away.
Okay, so if you can see, we have this document that we've kind of inserted into our slideshow here, the ACC Cares document. So I want everybody to take a look at that document, and then you can use the chat box to answer this question. But what we want to know is, based on what you see here, do you feel like this is an accessible item? So you can say yes or no. And if you think that there may be some improvements that can be made to make it accessible, you can go ahead and type that into the chat as well.
So what's everybody thinking? Is this accessible or not accessible? We got a yes? Anybody else want to take a stab at it? Don't worry, there's no wrong answer. We don't bite. All right, we got a no. We got another no. Okay. Because of the font. All right. Well, that's a good one. Mm-hmm. So actually, the answer is this document is actually not accessible for a couple of reasons. Alex, as you were indicating, the font is not one of our accessible font sizes or font types. But the other big issue is this is just a picture of this ACC Cares document that's not been tagged. It doesn't have any alternate text. It's just a big picture, essentially, without anything there. So if a screen reader tried to look at this, it would see a big picture and say, no. All right. And so we're going to define accessible actually here. So that's a good question, Carol. Defining the term accessible and what it means, we're going to kind of define that right here. So Haley, I'll let you kind of take over here.
Yeah, sorry. So what is online accessibility? This is just a definition. Accessible means that a person with a disability is afforded the opportunity to acquire the same information and to engage in the same interactions and enjoy the same services as a person without a disability in an equally effective and integrated manner with substantial ease of use. So any online or digital content, instructional material, or online information should be designed in a way that anyone can access this material with ease. And that includes Word documents, PowerPoint presentations, anything that you're uploading, any audio files, any video files, really anything that you upload. And Carol, I hope that that answers your question. Really, online accessibility is to everybody. It means that everybody has the equal opportunity to be able to download and acquire the same information and to be able to engage equally.
So guys, how would you guys feel? So here's a good question. Since we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion in our conference today, could y'all put down in the chat how you believe accessibility fits into our mission or into your campus's mission for diversity, equity, and inclusion? Don't be afraid to also speak up too as well. That's also okay as well.
Well, I mean, I can answer it if nobody wants to contribute.
I think that might be a good idea, Haley. Let's
Diversity and inclusion, you guys, it handles everybody, right? And so this, how Ally fits into that and accessibility fits into that is because, again, like I just said, we want everybody to have the equal opportunity of having access to this information. So thanks, Chris. Oh, there it is. For some reason, people's chats weren't popping up for me. Accessibility means students can see or hear the course content in the LMS, and any student can take the course, right? Hannah, thank you. Carol says that her campus does a great job with these, mainly because of state mandates. Yes. So accessibility is, again, it's about providing a gateway for all students. Okay, so regardless of gender, race, orientation, socioeconomic status, or ability, right? I think that it's big that we focus, instead of focusing on disability, that we use the word ability, right? Because it's equal for everybody to obtain that information so they have access to higher education. So accessible documents help all students by providing better ease of access to their course materials. And just some examples of that to come to your mind, if you have closed captioning on your lecturing videos, you have tagged your tables and images with alternate text to describe what's in the image, and the ability for documents to be read out loud using e-readers.
And folks, when we talk about DEI, in addition to discussing, the different parts of DEI that we typically tend to think about, such as gender, race, orientation, we also want to talk about our neurodivergent students as well. This is a term that I heard in a talk in the last hour, actually. So when we talk about students who, have, different types of learning disabilities, such as, dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, supporting those students in their quest and goal to, obtain more knowledge in their instruction. And so those are different things as well. So different learning disabilities, visual, audible disabilities. Thanks, Dr. Kempen. That's a good one as well. We want to make sure that we are trying to, not only include and accept them, but also provide them with the ability to grow, develop, and learn the material, just like the other students that are in our class that may not have, the same, situation as those other students do. And so with accessibility, we're providing that support for those students, but at the same time, many of our students who may not necessarily, think, oh, I did not need the closed captioning. Hey, I really enjoy it. I mean, I'm sure some of you guys have watched Netflix before and you're like, oh, I put the closed captioning on because, hey, it helps me understand what's going on in the background.
So we do have some federal regulations regarding online accessibility, as Carol mentioned. Section 504 and 508 of the U.S. Rehabilitation Act, Title II of the American with Disability Act of 1990, the WCAG 2.0 AA standards, OCR rulings involving online education, and working to have all video recordings captioned in higher education.
And these are all things that we are working on, I'm sure, all as educators that have, been things that we've been kind of working on since before the pandemic. And when COVID-19 hit, we've been adding to them and developing them. But guys, this is not something that you can finish in a day or a week or a semester or even in 5 years. This is something that is a very ongoing process that we continue to grow, work with, and develop. It's one of those things you've got to chip away at little by little. So don't think you have to, pack the whole house up in 3 days to move. Oh, wait, that's me. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. But again, talking about that itself, think about it as a way of trying to slowly work on building your classes. And remember, folks, when we talk about accessibility, remember, only a small percentage of our students will actually disclose a learning disability. So why? Well, many students are afraid of disclosing. Many students don't know how about to disclose, where to disclose. They don't. They may not have insurance to go to the doctor to discover that they have these learning disabilities that they have there. And remember, guys, learning disabilities are not just a one size fits all. Some learning disabilities we have to have targeted approaches too. And while there are some tools that do have a one-size-fit-all thing, like putting captioning on videos is pretty more standard and much more accessible for us as faculty, especially at Alvin with the access to ShareStream and Microsoft Stream. There are some other targeted approaches that may need a little bit more of a targeted measure. Again, we have a very reactionary culture to learning disabilities. A lot of times we're trying to, build the ramp as we learn about these things. And while we have some accessible tools already in class, are we waiting to build it or do we already have it? And again, how can we move or improve from our student engagement? There's many different strategies that are out there. We can move from curriculum specific to learner specific engagement and also focus on meeting our students where they are to help comprehend course concepts. With COVID-19, many of us have done a lot of recorded lectures. We've done a lot of recorded sessions. And we also find ourselves, in situations where we only get 1 or 2 or maybe a small handful of students that come if the sessions are not mandatory. And again, we can't always make sessions mandatory for students because many of our students have job situations that are very variable. They're taking other courses, family situations. But again, having asynchronous materials has been very helpful for a lot of our students with engagement. So how can we help our students? What do you think, Haley? What are some things we can do?
Well, we can provide descriptions of images and videos and graphics. There are tools that help us do this. We can provide text for audio. We can consider navigation and ease of use. So in that, we have to think about our headings, our readability, meaning can an e-reader pick this up, right? Because we are using software, extra tools that are kind of helping us get through these things, caption of videos. A lot of new instructors that I work with that I'm training, they think that I caption my own videos. I don't. There's a service that does that for me. Now I can go back and check them and edit them. But again, I'm not captioning my own videos, right? There are tools for that. Can a screen reader easily navigate what's going on? Can you use your keyboard to navigate?
Believe me, guys, with as far as captioning goes, remember my last name is Berger. So you can imagine that I've seen burger with a U many times and people are like, oh, I want food now, that kind of thing. So there are different ways that are there.
So for the folks that say, well, I teach face-to-face, so how does this online accessibility really apply to me? It still applies to you because it is still helpful to our students in their learning. We all are placing something on Blackboard. I know at ACC, our minimum standard is your syllabus and your course calendar and your grade book. But we're all learning, especially since the pandemic, and when we're dealing with so many students out at a time, and at any time we can be moved online. So we all really just need to be prepared. so that we can offer all of these tools to our students, because at any minute we can go online, or at any minute a student may be absent and they need to access this stuff online. And Brian typed into the chat the flipped classrooms. Yeah, that's an excellent little addition there, that a lot of people are using flipped classrooms now. And so where they are using class to work on problems, and they're recording lectures and adding supplemental materials into the class for the students to do outside of class.
I've been on some instructors that do have flipped classrooms, like in chemistry. Both Esther and I use flipped classrooms in chemistry, and our face-to-face classes have almost as much, if not more, than some of the online classes because of the lecture videos, the support resources. They're all there for it. And one thing we've worked on in chemistry is we've worked to make our documents accessible, our materials accessible, and they help all of our students. I mean, they're helping all of our students. They go, oh, I didn't think about how a caption will help me understand colligative properties of solutions for chemistry, or how the flipped classroom helps me understand the classic John paints the house in 5 hours, Sam paints it in 3. How long does it take them to paint it together? Sorry, I like that math question. It's one of my favorites. Anyway, but yeah, so there's a lot of things with accessibility that are there. So what can we do to adjust or edit for accessibility? Well, we all have Microsoft Office 365 at Alvin Community College. Those of you guys who are visiting for other campuses, do you guys have other tools that are available for you guys that things like, do y'all have Office 365 or other editing softwares, or access to a Creative Clouds, that kind of thing? What do you guys have? We'll make it a little bit of a conversation piece. I mean, don't be afraid to put it in the chat as well. What are some things, okay, ACC folks, what are some things that you guys are using in addition to what we've been provided with at ACC? Is there anything special that you guys have been using outside of, you know, the tools we're using? Or is there a tool you want to highlight? Oh, Shaw, go ahead. Oh, we got a shy group today, Haley, don't we?
I do want to comment on the chat that Esther said most accommodations help the general student as well. I really do agree with that, especially for me. A lot of students have trouble sometimes with my speech because I do speak a little fast, although I intentionally try to slow down, as well as some students have commented that I have a thick accent. I don't necessarily hear it, but they do. And so those captions really help because sometimes I pronounce words extremely differently. And so they're unsure of what I'm saying. And so it's been really beneficial really for all of my students. But so I think for me personally, the uploading documents as PDF file, I also rely heavily on our Microsoft Office that every student has, because a lot of my students now are coming out of high school with Chromebooks, and Chromebooks are not compatible. You can't have Microsoft Word on them, or they have MacBooks, and I don't. And so that Microsoft Office is huge. And then captioning the videos. Ashley says she has a question about fixing the accessibility meter on her documents in Blackboard. So Ryan, you want to answer that for her? How
I sure do. That's actually coming up. That's actually coming up, Ashley. So you're actually reading our minds here. It's like, yeah, we're going to talk about how to fix some of these items and some little quick tricks to, you know, adjust PDFs, adjust your Word documents, adjust your PowerPoints, and even help out with some of those videos as well. So you're actually reading our minds. And to get some things started, let's start with some key terms. The term alt text is a big one. That's the word or phrase that can be inserted as an attribute in a document to tell viewers the nature of or contents of an image or a table. So essentially, it's kind of like a short word or short phrase to say, hey, this is a picture of the human heart. Hey, this is a image file that talks about the voting rights in Ohio. Or hey, this is a description of Charlemagne when he was ruling, kind of thing. So I'm trying to pick out different topics here. But there's a lot of different things that are there with alt text, and we can add that as an item. And I'm going to go over that as we go along today, how and where you would do that in your Word documents and in your PDFs. With headings, these are the words that have different styles that are built in, and these can be accessed to help with easier accessibility for online documents. I don't know if many of us look at this, but in your course syllabus, the ACC syllabus template is built with different headings already. So like section A with communication, section B with your course description, section C with your student learning outcomes. Those are all the different headings that are there. And then underneath, we add in, the body of the text, such as what is your communication policy? What is your communication plan? What are your student learning outcomes for biology 2401 or chemistry 1411 or math 1314 or English 1301? So on and so forth. So a lot of documents kind of have those in place. And in Microsoft Word, they have different formatting settings that we can use where a heading can be used to separate different parts of a document. So again, styles in Word, we have different headings. So we have different sections of our document. You can emphasize text with different styles in Word instead of just relying on bold, italics, and underlining. You can list paragraph for bulleted lists that are there, adding quotes, and of course, adding your book titles for documentation. Using an HTML or docx instead of saving the file initially as a PDF. By the way, folks, I don't know if you guys know this, but if you do save an HTML file or a docx file, Blackboard can convert your Word documents into PDFs. So a little trick I want to show you guys, or a little thing I'm going to show you guys, let me pop into one of my Blackboard courses. I'm going to go into the student preview mode into it because I think that's a good way of showing you guys what's going on here. So give me 2 seconds. I'm going to throw this on the screen real fast, but here is my Blackboard class. And let's say I go to my syllabus. So you see this little A on the side here? You can download in different alternate formats, such as a tag PDF, an HTML, for an e-reader. There's even electronic braille for any of our blind students or visually impaired students that, need access to that brailing. There's an audio version for MP3 listening and even a Beeline reader option that's there as well. So you can choose what format you want to download your file in. Instead of just clicking on the link here, you can choose one of the alternative formats that is available. So we do have options that are there for our documents for our classes. Pretty cool stuff, right? For those of you guys looking at color and font choices, I know when we were looking at our first accessible document, there were some folks that said, hey, this is not accessible. The font's not right. So what color is our font in? I've been on several websites on Blackboard and also in several documents where the contrast of the font color is very difficult to see. So like for instance, on a black background, you may have a dark blue link. So I've seen folks that try to, make things stand out with higher contrast. And I put some websites in here to help out with some free contrast checking. And now I know some folks are going, well, Brian, can you put the PowerPoint in the chat? And this is the part where I can say, you know what? I'm actually going to put this presentation in the chat as well. So let me go ahead and put that in there for you guys. I know I haven't put that in there just yet, but let me put this in the chat for you guys so you guys have access to these links as well. So you can go back and look at this on your own time and all that other good stuff as well. Some best practices for font choices. You want to try to make sure you avoid bubbly font choices. While Comic Sans looks cool, it's not the best font for accessible purposes. Sans serif, Arial, and Times New Roman tend to be the best ones. Try to limit the different number of fonts you're using in your material. You may want to go back and say, hey, let's try to make everything all Times New Roman. Try to use ensure the contrast between the text and the background. Make sure the text is readable. And try to use smaller fonts, or try to avoid small font sizes, not try to use them, avoid them as much as you can. Again, 12-point minimum is the best practice when you're talking about font sizes. All right, images. So images, again, are our non-text elements, such as things like clip art, photos, charts and graphs, word art, smart art, those kind of things. I even put a fun little clip here. Your x-ray showed a broken rib, but we fixed it with Photoshop. Medicine doesn't work that way, right, guys?
Maybe with a 3D printer these days.
Maybe, yeah, something like that. So this kind of gets to Ashley's first question. How can I fix some things? So let's say we want to fix an image in, a PowerPoint file or an image in a Word document. So select the image and you're going to right click on the image. In the right click, you have the ability to do what they call an alt text option. Then you can write a title and describe what's going on in the picture. So for me, for instance, I did an alt text and I just kind of put the X-ray showed the broken rib and I titled it X-ray humor, basically. Now, describing the picture, you do get a 140 character limit, so you don't want to be super verbose in your description. But if you do need to provide a larger description about that item, there is a long description option that allows you to describe a little bit more what is being depicted in that image. All right, the do's and do nots for tables. Haley, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so when you are using tables and documents, you do want to make sure that you set the rows and the columns for your table. It is very important that you keep the same size font throughout the table and that you have consistent rows and columns, and avoid merging or splitting the cells because that makes it less accessible. You do not want to use the draw table tool or create a page layout with tables, merge or split cells, or fill your cells, no blank rows or columns. So the first list was things you do want to do, and the second list of things you do not want to do.
Think about how you guys are going to navigate in a table. So imagine that your mouse, so I use a wireless mouse right now. I know a lot of you guys probably do that too. Some of you guys like using a little trackpad on your thing. Think about if you don't have that mouse. Well, one, a lot of us are going, ah, it's scary, right? Not having the mouse makes me go, oh my God, I'm in trouble. But think about navigating with your keyboard. Think about using the tab key to navigate between the cells, because some of our students that may not, be visual, that are visually impaired, may rely on the tab key to move between different items. So think about kind of that item when you guys are looking at navigation. For accessible tables, table properties is a great place to build some accessibility into your tables. So build those tables in Microsoft Word, for instance. And again, all of our students do have free access to Microsoft Word through Office 365. We can identify the header row and restrict the page width. So select the top row of your table and right-click to go to Table Properties. In the Row tab, which I've got right here, select the box that says Repeat Header Row at the top of each page. I have the wrong one checked right now in my image, but I would check the Repeat the Header Row right here. So I would click on this instead, and I'd uncheck Allow the row to break across the pages. Now, there's also other items you can do in your editing. You can edit the columns as well. You can add alternate text to your table. You can even edit the individual cell. So for instance, if you're looking at, a certain number of significant digits or number of decimal places, you can adjust your cell so that it gives you the proper decimal places. Or if you're trying to do like a date or a time, you can adjust your cell to show that date or time as well. So again, alternate text, again, you can add a title to your table as well as the description of the table. Now for tables, we get a little bit more of a table description. We can put a little bit more characters in there, 330 whole characters to be exact. So we have a lot more space to add more items in there to talk about what's going on with our table itself. So our long descriptions are used when images that cannot be described in the alt text box need that there. So these are usually for images that we have to be a little bit more descriptive about. So for me as a chemist, that would be that big thing we use that has all the elements in that thing called the periodic table. I may want to use a long description on a PDF periodic table, and then I would be able to describe, a lot more in detail about what's going on in my periodic table of the elements. You can also use a link to a web page or a link to a PDF file. And you can even have a hyperlink that either links to these items with the descriptive link and includes some extra text or long descriptions as well. All right, so what about PowerPoints then?
So for accessible PowerPoints, you can use the outline view for the reading order. Use style layouts, avoid blank slides. You can copy and paste the outline and save it as an HTML file for a text version. If you have images or tables, you want to be sure to add alt text describing your images and tables. And for save as PDF options, the document structure for accessibility, and PDF is good for printouts for students, right? Because they have the 3 slides with notes.
Now, it's good for students with the 3 slides with notes, but I do understand that some folks have, more descriptive images that need to be blown up. I think I saw, let's see, I'm going to pick on you, Chris, for a minute because you teach anatomy. The 3 slides with notes may not be great for some of those organ systems you guys are showing in anatomy, right? Probably not. But for those of you guys who may have bigger images or diagrams, you may want to have certain slides that are, 1 page per slide or 2 pages per slide. So that way your students can get the full image of what's going on in that picture kind of thing. So again, the 3 slides with notes is a great tool to use, but again, that's not always going to be always practice. Again, look at what you guys are using for your class and then just kind of go with that. I've even got a nice little document article about making your documents accessible. So I've got a nice little article here about accessibility checkers that are out there. I know we have Blackboard Ally at Alvin Community College, but for those folks who don't, or if you want to get a quick check before you put it on Blackboard, great place to go. Again, we don't want to be like this person over here. Press any key to start. There's no any key on my computer. Do y'all see an any key on there? No, probably not. So, Haley, I think you do a little bit more with video and audio than I do, so I'll let you kind of take a stab at this one here.
Yeah, okay. So closed captioning and FCC requirements, the industry standard is that it be 99% accurate. And, there's a link there for closed captioning requirements. Again, you guys, all of my videos are closed captioned because I upload through ShareStream and I click a box, so it does it for me. But the whole checking of them, that is something that I don't do 100%. That's on my goal list. Like when Brian said that this isn't something we do overnight. This is a progress that we work towards. You have media with online audio only. Those need a transcript. And so if you're posting a link to a podcast, you do need to provide a transcript for that. Videos must have synchronized captions. Here at ACC, we use ShareStream, Screencast-O-Matic, and Microsoft Stream. So if you're outside of ACC, you probably, if you don't have these same programs, you probably have something very similar. So again, those will automatically caption any video that you use. I know that you do have to check the box with ShareStream to do that. If you don't, you can go back in. It's not too late. You can always edit something that you've uploaded and check it. So please don't think, oh no, I have to completely record this video again. And so transcripts are okay for talking heads.
Oh yeah, for sure. I know Microsoft Stream, that one's actually kind of through your OneDrive or our OneDrive support system. I know a few folks that do use it here on this campus. But Microsoft Stream, the links for Microsoft Stream are only going to be accessible for students who are using their ACC email. So Microsoft Stream does limit it to the folks that are here on this campus at ACC. So if you want to make sure that, somebody that, is not an ACC student is getting a hold of it, Microsoft Stream is a great way to use that. For ShareStream, it's great for this because it's embedded in Blackboard and it doesn't count against our 1 GB storage minimum or maximum. So that's another great one that's good as well. So there are a lot of different options. You don't have to use one or the other or both. You can choose whichever one, works best for your needs. We even have some helpful websites.
Yeah, so amara.org helps merge captions file if it's a YouTube that you do not own, and that's amara.org. If you want me to, I can put it down in the chat to kind of help people can copy it and save it. They can bookmark it. ACC tools, again, that we use, Screencast, ShareStream, Microsoft Stream. Is there anybody, if you're not ACC and you're using something else, if you can kind of type it in the chat. Thanks, Brian, for doing that. That'll be helpful. That's something that we can discuss and kind of add to our list for the future. If you upload to YouTube, you can upload caption files. You can also write your own captions, which can be important. You can upload transcripts and set timings for those. And you can also have YouTuber user voice recognition software to write your captions for you as well. Again, I know a lot of people rely on having these services do it for you. I personally have never captioned anything that I have recorded, only because I don't have that kind of time. But if you do, that is certainly something you can do. I just find it overwhelming, and I certainly don't want to intimidate someone by making them think that that is something that they have to do. Of course, that's an option. You can always write your own captions, but you never have to. There's always going to be programs that can help you with that.
And Haley, you mentioned something about editing captions as well. So you want to elaborate on that?
So yeah, you can always go in, depending on each service that you use does it differently, but I do edit some captions. I don't always have time to go through every video, but I know for me personally, there are some words that I say that always are captioned wrong. And anything with a long I, because I have a very Southern accent, I tend to draw it out. So I'll say ice, 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 and that is not always captioned. ICE. And the funny thing about it is I used to go back and watch and edit them along, but now I don't have to, because my students will let me know if something is captioned incorrectly. They'll tell me, and then I can just kind of go in and fix it. But now that I know which words I typically say, another one that I say, so in English we have essays, and when I say essay a lot, it will, for some reason, it will caption it as something else. And so, but because I know that and I've seen it, I know to kind of go in and quickly edit that. Because we teach in certain content areas, you use the same terminology and methodology. And so you'll catch on really quickly, and you'll know which service you use. And some of them work better for me. I film all of my lectures on Screencast-O-Matic. That does have a captioning service, but I wait to caption it until I go to ShareStream, because for my voice, ShareStream has been more accurate and has let me down less often. And so that's just a little trick that I use. But yeah, the students definitely tell me when the captions go rogue.
Yeah, I've had a few go rogue too, and I'm like, yeah, I need to get that fixed up a little bit. Mostly it's my last name. Like, they'll put burger in there as burger with a U instead of burger with an E, and I'm kind of like, it's okay, guys. It's me. I promise. Navigation is another big one too. Using the tab or the tab plus shift keys to navigate with your keyboard instead of your mouse. And so, again, what if your mouse isn't working, or if you wanted, navigate that way? So try those out sometime when you guys are in your LMS course to see how that's going with your navigation. I'd recommend just putting it in student preview mode and then trying to navigate in that form. And guess what? My Blackboard class is still up in student preview mode, so I can just pop this up here real quick. Let me get this on the screen real fast. Sorry, guys. It's not behaving. Nope, it went to the other screen. It does not like me today. Sorry about that. Here we go. So I could try tabbing to move down. So in my assignments, you see I'm tabbing. I'm hitting the tab button right now to go to different parts. So you can hit tab keys to move back and forth.
Oh, Sasina says that she laughs for hours reading her captions. They're completely off, and she wonders why. It's, but at least I didn't know at first, because in my mind, I speak perfectly clear, and I honestly, I must be in denial about how my voice sounds. I do not like listening back to my voice. I know a lot of people say that. And so maybe that's why I'm in denial. But yeah, I had no idea that my captions were going rogue until somebody told me. And then I took the time and I was like,
oh, yeah.
Now I know. Now I know.
Does anybody like listening to the sound of their voice? Yeah, I always kind of cringe whenever I hear myself talk. I'm like, do I sound like that really? I guess all you guys would say, yes, Brian, you do. But anyway. Yeah, I know. There we go. It's always one of those fun things you're like, yeah. So anyway, now we've kind of looked at some alt text we've talked about videos, we've talked about alt text for tables and images. What about adding a web link to an assignment? Or adding a web link to a PowerPoint or a document? Well, the best practice is to embed the links into documents, PowerPoints, and web files and avoid the word click here. Whenever I see the word click here, I always panic because I'm always wondering if it's going to take me to some weird phishing site that is going to steal my identity. So another thing too is it's also the recommendation is to avoid using the URL. And yeah, I realize now, guys, I'm not practicing what I preach here, But the reason I do it for you guys this way is that way you guys have access to those links for y'all's future viewing. Now, when you guys are adding your links, you want to name the link that you're using whenever you guys have it together. So to get a hyperlink item into your document, highlight the text that you want to use for that hyperlink. Right-click on it and then select the word hyperlink. And then for the text to display, keep it the same. So for instance, I have a little Cookie Monster thing here, this way to the cookie jar. And then I have a little mobile Twitter thing that takes me to Cookie Monster's Twitter where he's going, nom, 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 kind of thing. And so this could link documents to files where it's more clean and you're not seeing the actual URL there. Now, I do know some students do prefer having the actual URL present, but if they hover over the link, they can see the URL that is present as well. So there are different options there. Again, these are the best practices. And again, I know I'm not following my best practice rules here, but we have accessibility checks for Word. Texas Tech has an online accessibility site that's available here. And then Blackboard has Blackboard Ally, which is that big thing we all talk about, you know, the red, orange, and green, or the red, orange, light green, and dark green. There are some nice instructional resources to help things out. I know some of you guys are going to go January 2018, but yeah, Blackboard Ally is actually now about 4 years old. So it's kind of like, wow. So some different things that are there to help out with Ally. We've got a video from Vimeo, Ally for instructors and students, and then even a walkthrough demo video to help folks out. And for folks who may not use Blackboard as their LMS, do you guys have any other accessibility checks that you guys utilize? Anything that you guys want to share with us? Or even folks that are here at ACC, is there anything else that you guys have used to check accessibility?
I only have experience using Ally. I haven't used anything else. Hannah says D2L has accessibility checks.
Oh, cool.
And everybody agrees with you that they don't like listening to their own voice. So Sienna says, sounds like her sister. I think I sound like my mom when I hear my voice back.
I don't know what I sound like. I sound weird, but anyway. So guys, some final thoughts here to get us kind of thinking about things. It does take a while to make your documents and files accessible. And guys, we're still getting the hang of it. I know folks that, you know, have been slowly trying to add one new accessible document each semester or two new accessible documents each semester. And when we're creating documents for accessibility, we always have to keep that mindset of accessibility. We're not being punished by making things accessible. Think about our students. I know that's the big mantra and everything. Think about the students. How are we trying to make our documents better for them? And take it slow. You don't have to reinvent the wheel one day altogether. Just a few items at a time. Slowly chip away as you go. I have some red files and it's been 4 years and I've been chipping away at it too. I get it. I understand. There are some things that I just cannot do. When I do a scan of, when I scan a key in for a problem set for chemistry, it always comes back red. I've had talks with some folks in here, including Cecina actually, about trying to add math items for my dimension analysis or my balancing equations. We are slowly working on trying to adjust these things as we go. And sometimes it's just easier to slap a key on there that I've, you know, handwritten. And work with your colleagues that are teaching similar courses. Haley and I are both here to help. We both try our best. But again, talk to the people you work with. I mean, try to share the load a little bit. And guys, we are here to help.
Yeah, so there is our contact information again. And I wanted to comment that Shai had put in the chat that Canvas also has accessibility checks. So if Canvas is what your institution is using, there are accessibility checks available to you as well. Again, I just want to reiterate what Brian said. Nobody here is perfect. We don't get this on the first round. It's constantly, I don't reuse my videos every semester, so I consistently am recording new things. And so I'm always updating and going back and fixing captions and things like that. So, you know, you will get there, baby steps. And again, we're here to support you. So if there's ever anything you need, please don't hesitate to reach out. And if you have any questions, we are here for questions. We have plenty of time for questions.
Oh yeah, we do. We've got
or discussions.
Questions, discussions, critiques, all that fun stuff.
Go ahead, Hannah's got her hand raised.
Hi, good morning, guys. I have a question about PDF documents and checking PDF accessibility. I find that whenever I use D2L, and whenever I have some tables that I use that I download. Basically, they're rubrics, and I download them from D2L onto my computer, and then I check the accessibility using the PDF, Adobe check accessibility checker, but it will still not be accessible even though it's been generated through the platform. Do you guys have that problem, and how do I fix that? Because when I go in, I try to edit the PDF, it just tells me, it just flags the table and says this header isn't right, but then it doesn't tell me how to change the header.
That's a good question, Hannah. Is there a way for you to edit the alt text on that header of the table? Do they have that provided for you guys on there?
I think so. I think I can edit the header.
Okay. I would probably try to take a look at that, because that may be the only thing you really have to do. I know in Blackboard with Blackboard Ally, that's been recommended to me at least once or twice. And that's what I've gone and done, is I've edited the header in the table, and then it's been able to kind of fix that out. Excuse me, sorry about that.
Do you happen to have any, is there a site or do you know of any place that does walk you through PDF editing?
I'm actually looking
for accessibility.
Right now.
Okay.
Look that up right now, actually. That's actually something that might be helpful for everybody. Let's see if I can find something in here. Let's see. How are your PDFs accessible? Let's see. Oh, that's just buying a service. Nope, we don't want that. I just want a document. I just want something here. Oh, here we go. Oh, this is promising. So I just found this website here about for PDF accessibility. I'm going to put this in the chat for everybody. So give me 2 seconds on this one. But on this one here, is it coming up? And what I'll also do is I will share my screen again. Give me 2 seconds, guys. I'm going to put this on the screen. All right. And sorry, guys. I'm like a Tasmanian devil today. Anyway, boom. Here we go. So on this one here, this is kind of a how to make accessible PDF documents. I just found this online, talking about some PDF editing tips and tricks to add some accessibility, such as tagging parts of your document, adding alt text to your charts and images. So for the edit ribbon, edit the object. So this is what you're probably looking for, is item 2, Hannah.
Yes, because it's what happens is that if the table is just, it looks fine, and it'll just give me 2 little flags on every single document, and it's always the same place, and it just tells me that there's something wrong with the header, and it doesn't give me the option to fix it. Like sometimes with PDF, you can just click on it and it'll say fix, and it'll fix it for you, but this won't let me fix it for me.
Shai has posted a link as well into the chats that might be helpful. And the only thing that I want to add is that anytime we're using these computer programs to check for accessibility, they're computers, so they're never going to be perfect. So I had to at first, because I was like Ashley, like, why are all my things red? Like, how can I make them green? I want to be accessible. So I had to learn, which sounds really silly, but just not to take it personal. Like, I go through the student view, I try to see how the students that are taking my class at that moment, and if they can get what they need, it is something that I do put on my to-do list to ask questions about and focus back on, and see if somebody can help me maybe create a different document or create the information I'm trying to provide in a different way to make it more accessible. But sometimes I have felt like that it is picking on me, and I'm like, I think this is just a situation where, I gotta let it be read or recreate it in some other way to get it to go green.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. All sorts of different stuff that's out there. Thanks, Hannah. All right. Any other questions?
Haley, Ryan, I actually have a question. So when you guys talk about the PowerPoint, you make sure everything is ADA compliant and make everything in the resource on the PDF is accessible. But once you convert it into PDF, have you guys ever experienced anything like, everything perfect in PowerPoint, and then once you convert it in, in PDF, and all of a sudden all the format just messed up and doesn't meet the ADA compliant. So it happens to me when I work on Word document, and then after convert the Word document into PDF, and then everything just messed up, and I have to start over and then tag everything and put out alternative like text to the picture, things like that. I just wonder if anyone have that kind of experience.
I think I have once or twice. I've been really fortunate. A lot of my PowerPoints are small enough that I can still load them on Blackboard without having to change the format.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I'll check as well. So I know we've recommended the handout version for printing out slides, but what I'll also do is I give my students the actual PowerPoint on Blackboard, and I let them download it, and they can print it whatever format they want to, just to kind of avoid that issue. But yeah, no, I haven't had that. I haven't seen that one too much because I've been trying to kind of avoid that one altogether, Shaw. So I guess what I would say then is checking the PDF stuff would be, when I do make that, seeing, what things they're pointing out, what parts we need to correct on that. So that is something we could kind of, investigate, over the next couple of months this semester, actually.
Yeah, I agree.
So sorry, I don't have a direct answer per se. I just have a workaround.
Okay. We're all trying to figure this out.
We're all in this together, guys. We're all in this together. Sorry.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, but we are going to be here for a couple of minutes. So, of course, if you guys have anything else,